This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today we have Sara Mendicino, staff attorney at DRNY, here to discuss DRNY's Cultural and Linguistic Competency Project. What can you tell us about DRNY's Cultural and Linguistic Competency Project, and what's the goal?
So to help with the tongue twister, CLC is typically the acronym for Cultural and Linguistic Competence, so we'll use that throughout so both of us aren't tripping over our words. But DRNY's goal with our CLC project is to create internal and external initiatives that focus on the issues that arise in the cross-sections between the disability community and other underserved communities. These cross-sections typically cause further marginalization for individuals who identify both as a member of the disability community and another marginalized community in New York State. The communities that I'm kind of speaking of here would be ones including, but definitely not limited to, people who identify as limited English proficient, also known as the acronym LEP, racial and ethnic minorities, and people who identify as LGBTQIA.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and if you can either clarify or correct me on this, one of the words that I feel like we see a lot and hear about now is intersectionality. So would you describe that as intersectionality?
Yes, essentially the idea being that when someone is both in the disability community and in another marginalized group, we see it as they're being duly marginalized, and therefore there's more barriers to them as if they only identified with one of these groups.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So tell us about when this program was established. Why was it established? And who does DRNY work with on this project?
We specifically began our internal project in August 2017. However, we were working with our partners in the Developmental Disability Network, also known as the DD Network, on this initiative prior to that. The internal projects stem from this systemic work with the DD Network. So to explain, the DD Network is comprised of us at DRNY as the P&A in New York State. Then it also includes the Developmental Disability Planning Council, also known by their acronym DDPC, and the University Centers for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities Education, which are known by the acronym UCEDS, or UCEDDs. The UCEDS in New York State there are three: the Rose F. Kennedy Center at Montefiore, the Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities at the University of Rochester Medical Center, and the Westchester Institute for Human Development. So the DD Network, including all of those groups I've mentioned, applied for multiple opportunities to assist us to make our DD Network in New York State more culturally and linguistically competent. And what we ended up receiving was a spot within a 5-year training and technical support project from Georgetown University's National Center for Cultural Competence. And this was allowed us to create what is called a community of practice, also known as a COP, in New York State to address cultural and linguistic competence in our developmental disability network. Right now, we're currently in year 2 of our work with Georgetown.
That's great. So can you expand a little bit on what a COP is?
So Georgetown website states essentially the definition of what a COP is, and that is a COP's goal is to increase the number, diversity, and capacity of formal and informal leaders to transform their state DD system by essentially completing 2 steps. 1, advancing and sustaining cultural and linguistic competence systemically through changes in values, policies, structures, and practices. And 2, responding effectively to growing cultural and linguistic diversity among people with DD and their families who reside in states, territories, and tribal nations. Georgetown further elaborates through their website that essentially a COP in any state should have 2 primary objectives to complete these goals. And it would be 1, to create and implement a multifaceted COP designated to facilitate peer exchange, share information, provide technical assistance, and leverage resources to increase diversity and advance CLC in the state's DD systems, and that DD systems being what I described earlier, our DD network. So it would be us as DRNY as the P&A, the UCEDS, and also the Developmental Disability Planning Council. And the second objective would be integrated content from a proven curriculum. Here it would be from the Georgetown Leadership Academy's curriculum that we're using as a learning tool here, into a multi-state territory COP model designated to foster leadership for system transformation. So I think it's important to note that New York State's COP is composed of the DD network that I explained previously, but also very importantly so, it also includes the Chinese American Planning Council and the Ibero-American Action League. As part of our application to gain a spot in Georgetown's project, we had identified 2 marginalized groups we would focus on for our efforts in the COP in New York State. So using statistics from New York State, we chose the Chinese and Spanish communities as they're the most prominent. That being said, these additional groups are really crucial because they represent these communities in New York State within our COP. We shouldn't be having conversations about these groups without them. So this is a very important component of our COP in New York State, is having the Chinese American Planning Council and the Ibero-American Action League as part of our groups. But if people are interested in kind of learning more about Georgetown Center and also just more about what a COP is, they have a very informative website, which is nccc.georgetown.edu.
That's great. So we'll list these resources at the end of the podcast as well. And so we've got a lot of partners working on this project, which is great. And what are they currently working towards?
So in the external project, where we are working with our DD network and Georgetown, we just finished completing a needs assessment, and that was by conducting focus groups across the state to help us identify key issues that face the communities we are trying to assist. This helped us to gather information and then formulate goals that we are drafting into a 2019 work plan for the COP. Then also, in addition to working with Georgetown on this work plan and working internally with our DD network on this work plan, we are going for our 3rd time this summer to Georgetown to receive in-person training from the facilitators of the Center on Cultural Competence there.
So can you tell us a little bit about how this project has improved DRNY's outreach efforts so far?
Well, internally, DRNY has continued our efforts in working within the Chinese, Spanish, and other marginalized communities in New York State. We are internally working on a task force, which I actually was just at a meeting for before this podcast, on cultural and linguistic competence. And that includes a representative from not just each one of our programs where we have attorneys and advocates, but also from all of our departments too, so our office managers, accounting, so that it's truly an internal project that would represent the whole of the organization. We're also working on a staff self-assessment that would be organization-wide and that people would be completing, and then when we get the results we can collect them, share them, and then kind of have a cultural and linguistic competency training that's informed by those results. From there, we're also hoping to complete an organizational assessment. This will help us identify and address where we can improve, not just individually, but as an organization too. Externally, our project that we do here at DRNY, independent from the COP, is working on outreach as our main tool in reaching underserved communities. We hope to build awareness of who we are within these communities. We have upcoming outreach events already scheduled this spring and summer, where we'll be doing presentations in Spanish at the Rose F. Kennedy Center on special education, and in Chinese about less restrictive alternatives to guardianship with the Chinese American Planning Council. We'll, of course, be sharing that stuff with our communications department so the information can be shared on our Facebook and other social media. We definitely have more outreach events and presentations in these communities in mind, and have done more recently than we were doing prior. We have formed more connections, and they have gained us more opportunities to speak and participate in these communities, which we're very grateful for and we think has definitely transformed our presence in those communities. However, we know we can be better at it and build on it. So we love to find more resource fairs and opportunities to do presentations on topics that we specialize in here at DRNY, such as off-the-cuff special education, less restrictive alternatives to guardianship, employment. So if anyone listening has any suggestions of entities who may want to work with us to help us get DRNY's name out there and also help support these communities by, providing them more information on topics that may be of interest, it'd be something that I would love to hear about. So you can email me directly at Sara, Sara, .Mendicino, Mendicino, at drny.org.
That's great. And we will list Sarah's email and the other resources that we talked about at the end of the podcast. Sara, thank you so much for your time and coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I really hope this helps us get more outreach in these communities.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, and we hope you did, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next time, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed captioned version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel.